What I realize is that oftentimes we are not starting from scratch, but we are evolving from experience. And I promise you that whatever it is that you are going through right now, you have done much harder things in the past. You have much more knowledge, insights, self-awareness, and support to be able to help you move forward because you've done the hard things already in life. I want to sit down today and have a hard yet very important conversation with you. There comes a time in our lives where we have worked so hard to reach a certain level of success, achievements, or outcomes. And there is this deep grief that happens when we recognize that that's no longer the life that we want to live for ourselves. And I say this because there's this collective shift that is happening where a lot of women are really looking to redefine success for a softer life, for a slower life, for a more feminine life, for a more supported life, and for a more present and purposeful life. But in order to find that, that also might mean going through a rebirth, going through an evolution, going through a reimagining of who you are, what you value, and what you want to be moving into. So that is what we're going to be talking about in today's episode, where we're going to dive into redefining success and what to really do when the old version of your life, your career, the goals and the dreams that you had no longer fit, and you are in a version of the in-between, from who you once were and who you might be now to who you truly want to become. And if you are new here, or if it's been a while, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sienna J. Brown. I am a leadership and lifestyle coach who really works with high-achieving women, oftentimes corporate leaders, long-term entrepreneurs, who have reached a certain level of success, but they're really looking to redefine what that looks like to create a life that centers more presence, peace, power, and purpose. And my work is the perfect in-between of where soul meets strategy and where alignment meets ambition. And this is my podcast, Leading with Intention, where we really dive into real conversations talking about how can we create a new way to lead, to live, and to liberate. Because we all know that the world collectively needs it. And we know that you are meant to be leading this change. But it all starts with how are you leading yourself first? Now, you might notice some new things on this podcast. Number one, we are also on YouTube now. This is something that I was really excited to start diving into, creating more video content, putting my podcast episodes on YouTube, and more importantly, being consistent. And with that, that also means that I'm showing up a little bit more unapologetically, a lot more authentically, and a lot more unfiltered. And so this is where we're going to be diving in and having the real conversations to help support you on your journey, no matter where you are. So I want to talk a little bit about success and diving into a lot of the reason of why we are living in a time where redefining success is so important. So there has been a lot of studies coming out recently, and I'm talking about Deloitte, Gallup, LinkedIn, that are really doing the research on understanding why so many women, and specifically high achievers, leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, people who are building their own way, are feeling so unfulfilled. So let's dive into the data. 46% of women say that they feel burnt out at work. And I think we're seeing and feeling this now more than ever, especially with the continuous chaos, the lack of systems, the lack of coherence that often happens in the corporate spaces. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And as we're thinking about folks who have focused on their career, have become extremely hyper-independent, have broken the glass ceilings, with that, it also comes at a price oftentimes. Don't worry, if you're in this community, we're here to figure out how you can find levels of success without that happening. 57% of women say that they have lost touch with their true desires and values based on external expectations. And I'm sure you know what that looks like. Putting your manager or your CEO's needs first before your own. putting your family's needs first before your own, putting your community's needs first before your own, putting your business's needs first before your own. Basically, putting everything and everyone before your own needs and desires. And oftentimes that happens because we have been ingrained to be people pleasers, to be the ones who are always there to help, always there to support, always there to be for other individuals. And oftentimes at the end of the day, you feel depleted. You feel empty. You feel as if you have nothing left to pour into yourself, no matter how nicely color-coded your calendar might be. And the other stat that I found extremely interesting was that 70% of women do not find time and space for themselves because they are caught up in a cycle of doing over being. And part of the reason why I wanted to share this type of heavy-hitting data so that, number one, you know that you are not alone. If you are feeling any of the things that I just spoke about, there are a lot of other individuals who are going through similar processes. Number two, I think it's really important where we are now seeing this become a phenomenon where really big institutions are looking at the research and the data, which means that it's something that's important. And number three, I want to let you know that there is a way to move through and to find yourself on the other side where you have more of a sense of freedom, more of a sense of peace, more of a sense of alignment. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit today and in upcoming episodes. So as we're talking about this concept of redefining success, please know that I'm speaking from a place of not just experience, but also through the evolution of what that looks like. I laugh because redefining success is one way of calling it. Another way is having an evolution, growing and expanding. And I think oftentimes when you are an individual who wants to grow, expand personally and professionally, you might go through this shift various times in your life, whether that might be every 3 years, 6 years, 6 months, whatever this might look like. It is not something that happens once in our lives, but we evolve and we change over time, where we really need to sit with what does that look like and what is it that I need? And not only that, but learn how to honor it. So I don't think I've spoken about this publicly, especially not on the podcast, but I just went through a huge season of rebirth. And when I say a big season of rebirth, girl, it was a process. So 5 years ago, I had decided that I wanted to step into the world of corporate and put a pause on my entrepreneurship journey so I could really focus on 3 things. Number 1, impact. Number 2, resources. And number 3, wealth. So for me, it was extremely clear. I wanted to be working at this organization where I had just entered to really be able to see how can I scale my impact? How can I scale my purpose? How can I scale my leadership? And using it somewhat like an incubator. Girl, I incubated. I say that because within 5 years' time, I went from being an individual contributor and a freelancer at first to then growing and being the VP, the Vice President of Growth within 5 years' time. During that time, I also built a multi-million-dollar department. I led teams of up to 20, 25 individuals. I helped position the organization for over $30 million in funding. I built products. I worked on internal and external initiatives. And I also partnered with some of the biggest global brands that you probably know and love during that time. Now, here's what was really important. For me, that was exactly where I needed to be for this 5-year period in time. And at the same time, around 3 or 3.5 years in, I started to feel a shift, right? I started to feel a deeper inner calling saying, Sienna, while this looks great on paper, your LinkedIn is popping, you have the connections, you're doing the work. There was a lot that was also going on where I needed to sit with my values, where I needed to sit with the life that I wanted to build, and where I needed to really look at if this was the right choice for me moving forward. So the personal things that were also happening while I was growing professionally is I met my life partner. We just got married about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I became a homeowner in Spain. So over the last 5 years, I've bought 2 homes. One that is a rental apartment on the Mediterranean coast, and this other one is Casa Luna, where it's our dream home and our dream land, where I am right now. Not only that, but I opened up a co-working space in Spain, and I really started doing and looking at a lot of the ways that I was navigating support, hyper independence, what I wanted for the future, living a slower life, but with more intention, and then also really starting to tap into my life's mission and the work that I have always been doing, and I knew that I wanted to come back to, which is helping women like you really be able to reimagine what life can look like and create the systems and the structures to be able to get there without burning yourself out. And so I share all of this because in that 5-year period of time, there was a lot of growth happening, and there was also a lot of me being in the moment, not really having time to take a step back, ask myself what I need or what I wanted, because so much was happening that I needed to be there in that space, both personally and professionally, 100%. Now, the interesting part is that while everything looked great on the outside, there were some things that I still needed to heal that wasn't quite in alignment. And I remember, I've never shared this before, but I was having a conversation with one of my coaches, and he got really honest with me one day. In every single coaching session, I was sharing the same frustrations. I was talking about the same things that were really bringing me out of myself almost. And I think when you're in a season of burnout, when you're feeling undervalued, when you're feeling underappreciated, when you're feeling overworked and overwhelmed, we don't really have the clarity that we want or that we need. And so oftentimes we go in spirals. The same things trigger us, the same things frustrate us, but we still put ourselves in those situations. And I remember we were in a coaching session one day, and he lovingly told me, Sienna, I am tired of hearing the same story. Y'all, when I say I fell out and bursting into tears because that reflection in that hard mirror had me realize that I was also tired of moving through the same patterns, of feeling the same frustration, and of telling myself and others the same story instead of making a change. I said, enough is enough. And I decided that I needed to create a plan. And I just want to talk about that really quickly because I think oftentimes we talk about rebirthing or evolution or redefining success, and we think that it happens from one day to the next, and it doesn't. I think something that is extremely important is having patience with ourselves to be able to make change in our lives without burning it all to the ground, because we're not trying to get into survival mode. We're trying to move into a place where we're supported and somewhat stable to take that next step. And I remember specifically that I made a promise to myself that day where I said, I can either choose to stay where I'm at, but if I do, I need to stop complaining, or I can decide to make a change and let myself fall in love with the process of discomfort. I have to start over from a new place. And what I realized is that oftentimes we are not starting from scratch, but we are evolving from experience. And I promise you that whatever it is that you are going through right now, you have done much harder things in the past. You have much more knowledge, insights, self-awareness, and support to be able to help you move forward because you've done the hard things already in life. Where you're at now, it's just you choosing and trusting to honor yourself and what you truly want instead of silencing the noise. Now, we can spend a lot of time talking about why society has conditioned us to chase specific versions of success, right? Go to college, get a job, get married, get promoted, buy a house, have a baby. The list goes on. But something that I've really been thinking a lot about, doing research on, and also having a lot of conversations with similar women is really the fact that our collective liberation truly comes when we are able to let go and release that idea of success or the quote unquote American dream and start defining what does success truly look like for you and how can you honor that in your day-to-day life. Because once we are able to break free from the concepts and the ideas that society has created for us on how we define success, that is where we're really able to stand in our purpose, stand in our power, and make the change that we want to create and build a better world. So today, I want to leave it with a couple of questions that might really be able to help you understand if you are currently in a season where you need to redefine success. And then some questions that you can start asking yourself to start finding that clarity, at least enough clarity to help you be able to move forward and take the next best step. The first one is a hard one, and it is actually one that in my course, Permission to Pivot, one of my students had said, I had never thought about it this way before. And that question is, where did your current idea of success originate? Where did it come from? Who or what told you that that is what success looks like and that is the life that you need to be creating? And I think this question is so important because oftentimes we move through life so quickly that we don't actually question, why am I doing it? Why am I doing it this way? Who told me that this is the path that I have to take? And once we're able to gain some awareness around where that story originates from, then that's going to help us be able to unlearn it, redefine it, and then really start cultivating what that new version looks like for yourself. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, what is that inner dream or desire that's been coming up for you recently? And I think this one is really important because oftentimes we silence that part of ourselves. We say, oh, that could never happen. We create all of these limiting beliefs on what that is. In my case, it was, I remember I was thinking about, okay, do I go down the path of only focusing on leadership, becoming like a dope woman version of Simon Sinek, right? Or is it really my calling towards living a sober life, preparing to be a mother, wanting to be in my garden, in my home, and really tapping into that feminine energy that I have? And what I realized is it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? In my brain, I was like, leadership, that's where the revenue comes in. That's where I can scale. That's where I can have impact. Versus I was creating a limiting belief that creativity, sustainability, soft life, gardening, that can't be profitable. Where in reality, we are not one path or the other. We can be both, and when we allow for ourselves to have all of those different aspects of who we are show up, that is where you come into the magic of being exactly who you are and the unique perspective that you bring to the world. And the third question I want to leave you with is really asking yourself, what are the aspects of your life right now that drain your energy? And what are the aspects that light you up? And you can just make it a really easy line from the middle. If you're watching the video, you can see what my hands are doing. But what drains your energy, what lights you up? Do this with no judgment, but really just as a practice of awareness. And when you're able to see that your list of what drains you might be extremely long and your list of what lights you up might be 2 or 3 things, that is okay, because now you have a map. And we can talk in a different episode about how to kind of go through that. I'll give you a couple of quick tips. When you look at the list of what drains you, I want you to choose the 1 to 3, that seem like the easiest to mitigate. The easiest. So let's say something that drains you might be early morning meetings with a micromanager. Simple. Early morning meetings with a micromanager drains you. It throws off your energy. It gets you frustrated. It distracts you from all the potential work that you could be doing, right? What is one step you can take? One step you can take is sending out a simple Slack message to your manager saying, hey, I'm noticing that when I don't have time for deep work in the morning, it really impacts my productivity. Would you be open to moving our meeting from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Tuesdays? That's simple. So you're able to take something that seems like a mountain and make it a simple next step. So I want to leave you with these reflection questions. And I want you to really start thinking about, what does redefining success look like for you in this chapter where you're at. Now, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy to really be diving into this new chapter in my life and in my work, to be able to really start providing you with the soul led strategies, sustainable systems, and the real stories that are going to help you on your journey, no matter where you are. So I'm really excited to start diving into more of these topics in my weekly episodes on leading with intention. We're really going to dive in and talk about how we're able to help you not just redefine success, but really start living, leading, and liberating in alignment with your purpose, your inner peace, and your power. So if you had an aha moment in today's episode, if you had something that you took notes on or wrote it down, share it with me. I want to know. You can follow and subscribe. I'm on social everywhere at Sienna J. Brown. And not only that, but comment, share in an IG story. Be sure to tag me so I can see what's really resonating and hear from you what you want to hear more of. So thank you for tuning in. And I want to remind you, you are not behind, but you are becoming. And each and everything that you're experiencing right now is going to be able to support you in the future as you're on your journey towards redefining success and creating a life and career that feels just as good as the looks. I'll see you soon.